Hi Bridges families, it's Lori, it's me again, and today I wanted to read a book to share with families in celebration of April is World Autism Month, and I thought this book would be a great book to share that celebrates autism. This book is called Uniquely Wired by Julia Cook, and if you don't know, Julia Cook writes dozens of books that are really just, we use all the time at Bridges because they just so beautifully illustrate many of the things that we're working on. So it gives us a great jumping off point to entering into discussions with our kiddos about all these really interesting topics. So today's book, Uniquely Wired, is a story about autism and all of its gifts. And it's written by Julia Cook and illustrated by Anita Duffla. So here we go, as I try to separate pages. And I have a boy named Zach who has autism, so this is great. I am Zach. I have autism. Some people say I have a disability. I don't see it that way at all. I am uniquely wired. I don't see the world the way most people do. I have an incredible brain, and I have lots of gifts to share. And he says here, my memory is amazing when it comes to things I'm interested in. I used to be into trains. I mean, really into trains. It's like I had a train brain. I can tell you anything and everything about trains. And then it's got lots of facts listed. A few years ago, I grew out of trains, and now I'm into watches. I mean, really into watches. I own 379 of them. I can remember everything I ever learned about watches. When I look at a watch, I get totally lost. I love to see the hands move. I always know what time it is. I love to see the gears turn. I love to see the numbers. I love to hear my watches tick. I can be with my watches for hours and lose all track of time. Hey, that's funny. When it comes to watches, I hold them, listen to them, smell them, and if I could, I would eat them. When I go to bed at night, my watches go to bed with me. Sometimes I don't sleep, and neither do they. My kids with autism have a hard time sleeping too. If you ever want to teach me something, try doing it from a watch's point of view. Then I just might understand. Zach, if a watch falls to the ground, it might break. Then it won't be able to move because the insides are broken. So that's what his mom is saying to him. If you don't wear your seatbelt in the car, we might get into an accident. Your insides might get broken. Then you won't be able to move. You might get tired of listening to me tell you about watches, but I will never get tired of talking about them. So there's Zach, and there's his sister, and his sister says, it's not fair. How come Zach can take his watches to bed with him, but I can't take my toys to bed with me? And the mom says, because Zach's watches help him feel comfortable enough to fall asleep, where your toys keep you awake because you play with them all night. Because of Zach, then his sister says, because of Zach, I have learned that fair does not always mean equal. And that's okay. Thank you, Zach, for sharing your gift with me. Most of the time, I like doing things all by myself. I really don't like to talk to other people, especially people I don't know very well. I have my very own personal space bubble. I get to decide who I let into my bubble and when. Once in a while, my teachers have to remind me that other people have bubbles too. So there's Zach getting into other people's bubbles. There's Zach with his mom, and he says, I don't like hugs very much, but my mom gives them to me anyway. She says I'm like hugging a prickly pear cactus. Sometimes I hug people at the wrong time. I just can't seem to figure out the hug thing. Oh, and you know what else? I hate it when tags on my clothes scratch my skin. Oh, and another thing, I have a hard time knowing what you're thinking and feeling when I look at you. But that's okay. You can look at me and learn how I think and feel. And I have a hard time looking at you when you talk to me. When I try to do that, too much information goes into my head all at once, and it makes me feel uncomfortable. That's because you talk with your eyes. I'm not being rude when I look away. I'm just trying to protect myself. I see and hear the world a bit differently than you do. My eyes and ears are really powerful, like a superhero. There's his big old ears. Whenever I look at something, I see all of it at once really fast, and I can't stop it. My brain gets flooded. Too much information goes into my head at one time, and that's why I have to look away. Sometimes it's easier for me to smell things than look at them. I like to smell everything I touch. And then Zach says, I don't like lots of noise. It totally freaks me out. When I hear noise, I hear all of it all at once really fast, and I can't stop it. My brain gets flooded. I like to wear headphones to make the sound softer. Then Zach says, or then his friends say, Zach has the ability to teach us that every person sees and hears things differently, and that's okay. Thank you, Zach, for sharing your gift with us. Zach says, sometimes I flap my arms and my hands really fast. I love the way the air feels against my skin. Whenever I get excited, upset, bored, or anxious, I flap, and it helps me calm down my brain and organize what I'm thinking. When I flap, you might think I look weird, but it's just my brain thinking on the outside of my body. As soon as I feel organized, I stop. You should try it sometimes. It works, and my teacher says it's great exercise. Then there's Zach's teacher, and he says, because of Zach, we're able to feel the air against our skin, organize our brains, and get some great exercise. Thank you, Zach, for sharing your gift with us. Zach says, I am a spinner. I love to watch things go round and round and round. I spin toys. I spin wheels. I try to spin everything that I can hold. And I love to spin me. The faster I go on the outside, the quieter I feel on the inside. When I spin, I can feel the world. You should try it sometime. It really works. Because of Zach, we're able to see that when the world around us is spinning out of control, sometimes we need to spin with it. Thank you, Zach, for sharing your gift with us. Now seems like as good a time as any when the world feels a bit out of control to do a little spinning. It's really hard for my brain to come up with my own words to say, so sometimes I borrow words from other people, you included. I love to hear myself talk, but once in a while words get stuck in my brain, and then I say them over and over and over. It's fun for me to predict what's coming out of my mouth. I'm like a word copy machine. If I like the way something sounds, I can make a lot of copies. And there is Zach as a word copy machine. Since Zach likes to borrow words from others, he helps us be more mindful of what we say. Thank you, Zach, for sharing your gifts and making us laugh. In some ways, I'm different than you, but in lots of ways, we are the same. I feel bad when others are mean to me, just like you do. I feel alone when kids don't include me, just like you do. I feel hungry, tired, hurt, cranky, cold, hot, thirsty, yucky, and sad, just like you do. It's just harder for me to talk about it. I embarrass my big sister when I laugh at the wrong things, and she thinks I act strange around her friends. I don't mean to. I'm just being me. Everything I do and say has a purpose. It might not make sense to you, but it makes sense to me. It's my normal. Zach has taught me, his sister says, Zach has taught me to accept the fact that everybody's wired differently, and that's okay. Thanks, Zach, for sharing your gifts with me. My little sister gets jealous and feels left out because I get more attention from our parents than they do. I don't learn from watching other people. I mostly learn from things that people teach me. I'm a black and white thinker. To me, there is no gray. So please don't expect me to read between the lines. Boy, that's a lot of figures of speech, eh? I think what he's saying is, I don't understand things unless you really show me. My brain is very crowded and busy, so it takes a lot of patience, repetition, practice, and hard work to teach me new stuff. I'm super smart in some areas, but I struggle with things in life like getting dressed. Mom and Dad have to spend more time with me than with my sisters. Sometimes I just wear them out. And then Mom and Dad say, Zach has taught us to be more independent. He has also helped us to become more patient because, Zach, we're better at sharing and making compromises. Thank you, Zach, for sharing your gifts. And here it says, I am Zach. I have autism, and some people say I have a disability. I don't see it that way. I am uniquely wired. I don't see the world the way most people do. I have an incredible brain and lots of gifts to share with you and everybody else. The end. So I love that book because it highlights how really amazing our kids are and how sometimes we just need to look at things differently. One of the things that when my son was growing up, we did with him is we talked about all the special gifts he had, and we actually put them on a list, and we would talk about things that were same and different. So not good or bad, but just things that he did differently and how they could be seen as gifts. So he has a great memory for movies. And so we would put that down as a special gift that his autism gave him. And I have to share with you, I felt like I maybe had got something right, because when a good friend of ours, when her son was diagnosed with autism, Jackson's first response was, "That's awesome. I'm so excited." So he sees his autism as a special gift. And I hope that we can help see more kids see that their autism is a gift to them. So just focusing on all of those things that make our kids unique and the special gifts that they give them. And I think too, talking to siblings about how having their sibling has been a benefit to them, things that they've learned that maybe their peers haven't learned, or experiences they've had that their peers haven't had because of their sibling's autism. So those are good jumping off places for discussions. We put a whiteboard in Jackson's room when he was probably in grade 2 or 3. And one of the things that we did is we split it in half, things that he was working on and things that he was really good at. And the other thing it gave him was an opportunity to see how if he worked on something that was hard for him, eventually it moved over to the things that he was good at. And so it really helped build that growth mindset that we talk a lot about. But he also saw those special gifts that he had and the things that he could do. And it was very visual. And we would go over it every night. And we would, we were really always excited when we saw something cross off on the working on side and got to put on the things that I'm good at side. So those were strategies that we used. But I think that book is a great jumping off place for having those discussions about what is sort of special and unique about having autism. I hope that's been helpful, and I look forward to connecting soon. Bye.